Hi, everybody.
Hello,
Hello.
Christy.
Hi, Peyton.
Whoops, where'd my camera go?
There's Steph. I can see.
Hello.
I can see. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good. You guys sound really clear too. Wow, Florida, I'm coming. Wow. 108 here in Phoenix. I don't know.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Please
Lord. I think I'm coming to Colorado.
Yeah, right.
That'd be nicer there. So, or even Kansas. Yeah. My son is in Missouri in St. Louis, so
Nice.
it's nice there. So
Love
let me share my screen here first. Oh, I want to make I want to make sure it's okay to record because I have to show this to other teams. I can't meet with one team without the other teams seeing what we talked about.
Yeah.
Just to be fair. Okay, thanks. I just wanted to let you know. Let me see. Share screen. And let's see if I can do all. Share all. And then let's see. Okay, you are sharing. Oh, okay. There we go. You're sharing. So you can see our usual calendar here, right?
Yes.
So I just want to start out by running through the interface real quickly because I know you've already all done this, but there's all kinds of other teams that aren't caught up as you are. In fact, I got a call, I won't say who, but one team called and they said, we met, we're all set. We've got the annex done and we'll drop it into the CLC box by Saturday. And I said, well, what about the sim? And they said, well, that's not the sim.
Oh no.
And I said, no, it's not the sim. And they're like, well, what is the sim? I said, have you been on Harvard yet? And they said, well, we went on that thing to register. Do we have to go back there? And I'm like, oh no. There we go. But anyway, so when we first register, we go down here to class resources, click
Okay.
on that, and then up comes all these resources. And the top one is our Mega Learning Sim, which you've already done. And when I hit view research, I'm not going to hit it because I'll go to the faculty interface. But if I hit view resource, it says HBSP in the browser because it takes you to Harvard Business Publishing where it's hosted. So if I do pretend I click this and then I'm purple, I get taken to the purple landing page. The first time you register, of course, you don't. You have to ask for a password and it says wait till it's configured because it takes about a week to get it all set up and get all the teams allocated and assigned and all that good stuff. But the first thing that's important here, I'm just going to run you through a few and then we'll do some questions. We have our Peyton, our CFO here, and we have our CEO of one of the business units. They call them business units. I call them car lines because even though it is a business unit, there's all kinds of moving parts. Usually one car line with several models it's picked. So either there's a CEO, if there's four, there's one for low cost, one for eco, one for family, and one for value, or one for image. So now you can see on this interface, we're at the dashboard now, and it gives everybody's first rank. If I went to all the other teams, you'd see they're all first rank too, because we have not done any submissions and run a sim yet. So when we start out here, it kind of says, okay, our revenues, where it says period four, everybody goes, why is it period four? Well, we've inherited this company. It's a turnaround. And if we even break into positive EBIT, we throw a party. I mean, it's not easy. It's very difficult because we got left with Sam's Club and Walmart has to turn it around without closing all the stores. So it's a tough sim. And like, I want to make sure I say it again, like I do to everyone. You can come in dead last for all 5 decisions and still get an A in this class. It's not where you end up ranking, but that doesn't mean you don't try. And it's fun to try. And there's a lot of surprises. We've had teams first place through 4 decisions, and then on the 5th decision, someone jumped from 4th to 1st, ended up winning the sim because of not just the rank, but also the 6 indicators: the ROCE, accumulated retained earnings, share price, all that good stuff. So to begin with, we just kind of everybody sees the same thing here. See the evolution of the emissions. And then we can also see our ranks and then whichever one's really first. And this is very important. Everybody ignores this at first, but here's a tip. I'm going to try to help everybody avoid alligators. Look down here on the far right. This means something. When you see our business index, PCI, and gas price, as we go forward, especially our finance folks will see that as these change, we're going to have to change our strategy a little bit. If we're heavily involved on image and it's a gas guzzler and this start to shoot up. Now in the 15-week, we can have a recession. Here we don't. I have made all the companies public, so you can look at all of the financials of all the other competitors, which is fun. Not that you have time to analyze everybody, but at least you'll see what they're doing right and wrong to give you an idea on where to go. Now, the interface is very important because we all say validate, validate. That's the last decision is down here is when you're all ready to do, you've made your decisions, you validate. But along here, there's all kinds of cool data under company, markets, decision, and validate. And the decisions also have both business lines and corporate. So you go to the business lines and look at your 4 business lines or 4 car models and make the engineering and marketing decisions. And you also fill in the boxes with the decision process. And then you jump to corporate and make your corporate decisions like taking out loans, looking at your receivables and payables and all that good stuff. But what's really cool about the sim that you're just going to love is it makes the rest of the class so much easier because all of your discussion questions, all of your papers, all the other deliverables are being handed to you by the sim because you get, everybody sees the same thing, same market share and everything because we haven't made our first decision yet. But there's a huge number of really cool graphics that we get after every run and many more than this. And there's some I sent to you and some that you'll see in this image go forward. But it's putting those together and explain what you did and what went right and wrong, and that's it. You've got the class, you've got it. And so all of this stuff really stems from your decisions. And it doesn't matter if we learn from our mistakes. So if you make a wrong decision and you lose a bunch of revenue or something, you just look at why did that happen? How can I change it? And how can I change our strategy? So the 3 annexes in the logbook, and I should show you, what did I not show you? Oh, okay. Down here, we've got this little hamburger menu, right? I don't know if you've tried that yet, but if you go on the little burger menu, there's documents, my team, high contrast, enable screen reader. Well, what really matters is documents because even though our pictures are over here in the way, even though these are all on Halo now, there's the pre-leading, there's the cheat sheet, a team learning logbook, which has our annexes and the glossary of terms, and then the videos also, and there's all kinds of cool stuff in here. The slides, the cheat sheet you have to look over for sure because it tells you how the customers kind of match to engineering. But then there's all the slides of the financials. Now, what I did is, and I'll send it, I sent a link already, but I ran through all 100 slides in 20 minutes. So instead of spending hours and hours studying the slides, it shows the key points at every slide, and I put that on YouTube along with the YouTube training materials. So this is important. If you can't find it under class resources with the videos, and the reason I'm saying that is that this is the first class ever after hundreds and hundreds of sims where they've integrated Halo with Harvard here. You can actually get on Halo through that class resources, and the videos are there and the logbook is there in Halo. Now you can't use CLC with it. You can drop the annexes in there, but you can't get to the sim that way. You'd have to come here, and then everything else in the future is here on this interface here. So that's the hamburger menu, and it shows all the different documents and all that good stuff. You can go to the different regions. Well, we're not going to have a merger and acquisition, but you can see in our universe all the different teams and how they're doing and compare their financials to yours. And I'll start by saying I tell everybody take out $2,000. I think I already did put the 2,000 as a placeholder. We'll see that under company in a second, but we have to make sure we don't run out of cash. So the decision process is we first start out, before we go to corporate, we start out with our business lines and the decisions in engineering, the sliders are, everyone asks, what are these numbers for? What is a 0 and what is a 10? They're customer sensitivities. That's what the numbers mean. So how sensitive is our customer group to design, performance, comfort, and those sliders? Everybody's set at the same place, all the teams right now, and we all have the same CapEx results. And our finance person will say, what the heck are you doing with CapEx talking about perception? Well, what it is, it's convoluted and there's a lot of working parts, but as you change these sliders, what happens is the heavier the design is, like let's say an image or one of the other car lines within your value proposition, as you change these for each one of the car lines, it's going to retool your plant, which means your capex is going to change. So as you look at the different financials on supply and demand, your marketing decisions can drive demand, but when you put more features in to help driving that demand and do your marketing with your dealer network, if you over engineer it, capex goes way up and your fuel failure rate goes up, and then the plant productivity goes down because you have to fix those cars in your plant. It's not like we have a dealer network that fixes them. It's like all recalls. So we just have to be very careful. And I'll just tell you a few. There's one thing that's really good that you should watch. I did another 20-minute video that shows the final presentations of 3 teams. Yellow team, who blew the doors off. They started a flywheel and they exceeded all sims we've ever had, including at Harvard. And this is here at GCU not too long ago. Did fantastic. And we have their final presentation. Then they have one of a middle company that started out very badly. They said, we're going to lower our price really low. We're going to get huge orders and take over market share and then spread our costs over a bigger installed base and have unit costs down. Great strategy, but they weren't profitable. So every extra sale was a loss and they ran out of cash like not even halfway through the first decision. So they had to use their loan, and then you get a government loan to keep you going if you've used your cash up with that 2,000 everybody borrows. But so it took them a long time to recover, but they finally did come back to number 2. And then there was a middle one that's done, the presentation's done. And these are all just like, I don't know, 5 or 6 slides. All the slides come from the sim, either that I sent you or you find here. And then you just do like a PowerPoint voiceover, and that's a huge number of points. The peer review also is, I don't know, 1,600 points or whatever it is, or 2 peer reviews. And we have gamed that. If you like everybody on your team, I'll show you a way to give maximum points to everybody. And so everybody maximizes their points. You should be honorable if someone never shows up and you say, you know, we really don't want to give you 100%. The team has decided, but you do it as a team because teamwork is everything in this sim. And we're all open and honest with each other about it and say, you know, we asked you to do this and this, it wasn't done. We have to all do it now and finish it. So what we're trying to do is everybody take a car line, but really in the first decision, it's so easy because there's no customer feedback and there's no competitor feedback. You stay in the middle, figure out, you know, in the cheat sheet, it'll show you what do customers like in each line. In low cost, what do they like? In family, what do they like? In eco, what do they like? In image, what do they like? Look, you go down to marketing and say, okay, what about dealership proximity? How close should we be to dealerships? How many dealerships should we have? And then you got to go up and say, wait a minute, what car line is this? This is low cost. Well, it happens that in image, you'll see this in the cheat sheet. Image is like buying a BMW or Rolls Royce. I don't care if I have to drive 50 miles to the dealership. It's like there's a dealership in California everybody drives through from all over the state that sells Ferraris and Lamborghinis. There's one dealership. So it's not very sensitive in image to having a big dealer network. In family, it is. And this is on the cheat sheet. So when you do these decisions, you have to do them by car line and make sure you're matching up what you think the customer is going to want with the way you're engineering your offerings here. So that's just the main thing you have to do for all 4 car lines. Everyone you'll see has a little bit of difference, and you'll also see that CapEx is different for each one because out of the box, you've already sold a bunch of these, as you can see. And as you look at the marketing appeal, what's projected and current, you have all kinds of projections here. And as you do it, this is hard to explain because there's not a couple of decisions yet. We'll do another one of these, but one really good way to do this, if you really get in trouble, is you'll get a white market line. And if you are really outlying, you can see as you change the design, I don't know if I should, I got to be careful here. That was on 9. I don't want to do anything that actually changes, but when you see you change it, it changes the shape. And it'll, in the future, it'll superimpose that with the white market line. You can just set these sliders closer to the white line to recover. So that's one good way to do it without, having to do analysis paralysis. But this is all the value proposition, and you move from that for each car line to the value chain and then your budget. The value chain then gets you between supply and demand. And I'm going to be sending you a feedback on every run that's called lost orders over inventory. And if you see the word sales, you'll think about financially, okay, those are the cars we sold. In the US, it's a European designed sim by Renault, but sales equals deliveries. So when you see that you have a certain number of sales, a certain number of units that you can actually deliver, and you have more orders than sales, that gap in between there says, I spent a whole bunch of money on marketing, but I can't deliver them. The sales curve's down here and the order curve's up here. So those are all called lost orders. And it's called lost orders over inventory because in the center of the graph is a 0, and then all the teams go around it. If you drop down below the 0 point, you want to stay at 0, because what 0 means is there's no gap between orders and sales. You really predicted supply and demand well, and you got your CapEx right, you invested in your plant, and there's a little financial formula that's in the cheat sheet, but I'll also just tell you what it is. It's not that hard. When that's down even, then it doesn't go down, which means there's lost orders, which means you had too many orders and you couldn't fulfill them, or it doesn't go up, which means you have a huge amount of inventory because you didn't spend enough on marketing and you build a whole bunch of inventory that nobody wanted to buy. So matching that supply and demand is a real secret to all of the EBIT, the ROAS, and the other numbers, because you don't want, because those sales are lost. It doesn't go period to period. Each sim is a year. So when you make a plant change in CapEx, and CapEx is just, capital expense. It's basically investment intensity. So when you move these sliders, it changes the forecast on your CapEx per unit. It's doing that for you because it says, if you're going to add all these incredible engineering, like design, what's design at 8? And, if I go up to 10, look what happened with CapEx. Now, I don't want to mess let me get back to 8 again. I want to keep these all where they started for you to do whatever you want. You can play with all these. It doesn't matter what you do. You just make your final decision. But this is obviously family. So if you want to do these, as a team, get the team organized, everyone kind of looks through these and decides what do we want to match for our, and then, for our value. Or if you just do a little bit of that, have some ideas, then get together a team and let's run through all 4 of them and do these 4 decisions, then you can see what the effect is on your CapEx, et cetera. And that lets you decide, what do I need to invest for the next period in plant and on the supply side. And the formula is simply that the minimum CapEx you need to invest is depreciation, because every year, every decision, I don't know, 8% or something, a certain amount erodes in your capacity. Now, you also have to, as a finance person, as the CFO, you have to say, folks, be careful with the design. Yes, we want to do a lot of great sales, but if you over-engineer it, the CapEx is going to go way up and you're not going to be able to produce it enough unless you've covered that plant, the investment in your plant. So now the other thing is, stay in the middle. They're keeping you in the middle here, and then just kind of adjust it for each customer group. And it's already been done for you because you got a certain number of sales based on how they did it there and how the predecessors that were fired did it before the turnaround. But all of these things are explained both in the slides and in the cheat sheet in terms of how do they relate to the customers, but don't take them too seriously. It's like, just give it a shot and say, hey, let's have some fun. Let's try this, this, and this, because the first decision is absolutely meaningless after the results come back, because it's like, oh my gosh, it compared all the competitors with what they did, looked at what the customers really wanted. I may think they want a 5 and they may want a 3, or they may want a 7 here. And you'll see that. It's like, oh man, I see, I just missed that. But then that'll change because the competitors did things different too. And you can also see all the competitors' results. So you can say, wow, look at this. They lowered the price really low on family, and they hardly got any sales. What happened? And you look in and they say, oh, you have no dealer network. I can jump in, put the price close to where they are, raise my dealer network and family and go eat them up and get those sales, and it happens. It really works because everybody's not, we all work, we have day jobs somewhere, and everybody's not spending their whole day on the sim. They're like, oh, let's do our best. And so when you kind of see, well, that's a really major opportunity, and always sending you lots of cheats after every sim run. So what you do is after you've gone through the value chain, set that for each of the 4 car lines, then all the sliders are is the sliders. Marketing and engineering, you pretty much set it. They've set the CapEx for you because it follows what you do in engineering. Then you got to go back and say, did I just run out of cash? I mean, you can't go below 0 or it won't run. So you have to look at your budget and kind of say, what have I done that changed my EBITDA? How is my cash going? And what should I do with my price? I can see the current market share, and then you can actually do forecasting here and try it yourself. Just try whatever you want. Let's use the forecast they gave us, or let's try one of our others and see what it does to our orders, our market shares, etc. And having those forecasts, you let the sim give them to you or try different ones yourself, just depending on how much time you want to spend on it. It becomes a lot easier as you go forward because this is overwhelming right now with all this data in the interface itself, but it also doesn't matter because you have no feedback. Same thing is true of decision 5. Everything you're doing for decision 1, 2, 3, and 4 has got to do with the next period. You're forecasting it. 5 does not matter. And I don't watch this video yet. There's a video that Professor Paul and I did on gaming decision 5, because there's certain things in decision 5 that you don't care about the future. I just want to win now. And it gives some teams the chance that really were dragging on 4 and 5 or 3 and 4 to jump up into 1 and 2 if they try it. And what it is there's certain features that don't go in the inventory from period to period. And I don't tell people that early because I don't want to confuse them and get them thinking about features. But that does help you with the last decision to say, hey, we're just going to really design the super stuff and then get all the inventory out there. Now, you don't want to get to the point where you have so much inventory, you have to lower the price so low that you're doing dumping, because it'll help you a little bit, but it destroys the whole industry. And this is designed to have a certain amount of co-opetition with it, where you're cooperating and you're competing, but you still have to have a competitive spirit, because if you go too far, we had one team, they were so sweet, I just loved them, but I felt so sorry for them. I think it was Blue Team. One time they said, hey, we're going to send an eco-friendly thing. Let's save the planet. And we're going to do this great thing where we raise prices on our value and all this. And they ended up getting no sales because nobody followed. They all said, huh, we're not going to do that. And it's like the old XYZ game where there's 5 people. And we did this in my mediation class that I teach, where you could, all 5 members press either X or Y. And if everybody holds up Y, then each person gets $10,000. If only one person holds up an X, everybody else gets 0, and that X gets $50,000. But if there's 2 X's, nobody gets anything. So what happens with the strategy, it's like either we all hang loose together or we all hang separately. You may be saying, I'm so happy with my 10 grand. We're all let's all just do Y. We have a strategy. I'll do all five competitors. We'll do Y. After 2 or 3, you may do 10 or 12 of these. Somebody just thinks, I'm going to pop an X just once, the one time. Well, what happens if 2 people have had the same thought? Everybody loses. So it shows a zero-sum game kind of thing here. So that's what this sim is a lot like. You can say, we'll send signals to our competitors. Let's hold up the market. Let's not get crazy with dumping prices below where no one makes money. And as a CFO, Peyton kind of has to go back and look at EBIT and say, this is all wonderful, but what if we are doing so much marketing like Red Team did our last, either 1 or 2 sims ago, and every sale was a loss because they had really hyped the marketing budget and they got huge market share, but they almost went up. They were bathing in red ink because every sale was a loss. There wasn't, even if you're close and you're eating a little way at the roaster EBIT, at least you're getting up. Even if you never see, blue ocean, you're still doing a little better every sim, which is great. And the ending, all the papers and all the strategies, everything else you do all it is about is honesty. It's all it is we tried this, this, and this, and this, and this happened. We're really happy this and not so happy with that. At some point, it would be good. Whenever I solve a maze, I like to look at the ending and then work backwards. It's like easier to work back from the end of the maze and forward. And part of that is I have some out on YouTube that shows the fifth and final decision and then the presentation they gave. And these are short. You don't, I mean, you get a lot of points for them, but they're short. You know, they're like 8 minutes. But it gives you a summary of here's what we tried, here's what works, here's what didn't, and a lot of really cool graphics because the sim gives you all the graphics. So you do that presentation, and if you look at some of these teams that started out really like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, and then see how it was at the end, it was just fun. It's like, wow, we did this and this and this and wrong, but boy, did Red ever stumble. And then we had a chance to jump in there, and that's why I ended up number 2. And even a team that started at 2 and ended up at the bottom said, look at how our emissions, we were good for the earth. And everybody said, how do you do that with a combination of image and low cost? And they said, we figured out that if you do just eco and you sell millions, you're putting out a ton of emissions just by volume. Even though the emissions of that particular vehicle is better, you have so many out there that your CO2 went way up. And it's like, well, yeah, this is not a simple, there's a lot of trade-offs and balances and moving parts for it. So then once you've got your, you know, everyone then has every car line then has their own budget. And right now it's just engineering and all that is the same thing, but you have not looked at anything. These are all just individual car lines. So let's see if I keep getting a picture out of the way here. So then after we've done all the car lines, looked at the business lines, we have to jump to corporate. And this is where our CFO comes in. The most important thing for our corporate budgets, and of course, then you have to do our pricing, look at our orders, and we'll get feedback. It still doesn't matter for the first one. I think I gave us a loan. Yeah, see, I did our long-term loan. Please don't take that away. I ask everybody to do it, and then just as everyone's validating, I jump in the teams and say, oh my gosh, no, blue team didn't do it. And one team didn't, they slipped by. And you can't have a zero cash flow where it won't let you validate. But you can skip the loan, and then the next period you get a huge government loan and you're paying a ton of interest. So this just helps you not having to deal with that. So I just threw this, I think, in all the teams. But as you go through these budgets and you look at, you have to go back and forth because you have to look at your final investments and your cash used and what your final cash management is, because you cannot end up like below zero. It won't let you validate. So the things you have to do, if you have a slider in engineering and marketing at 0, it won't let you validate. The reason is if you have a 0 dealership network, your entire team will get no sales on anything because we have to have a dealership network. So it's set to say, try not to have 0 there. Also, you can't have below 0 cash. You have to have at least 0, a little bit positive cash, or it won't let you sim. So there's just a few of those on validation that I don't want you to get to the last minute and say, hey, we've got everything. We're happy what it is. Let's give it a shot, get out there. And then you go to validation, which is the fine one here. You hit validate, and it says, what does it say? It should say, are you crazy? No, wait. No, wait. Oh, maybe it's not going to let me do. Oh, there we go. Are you ready? Send your decision. No, I'm not going to. I don't want to validate this. But when you do that, you can send your decision, and that it closes everything down. It locks the sim out for that one team. And I have to encourage all 5 teams. I can't run the sim until all 5 have validated. And then after that, we see decision 2 is a lot more fun and complex and interesting because we see all the reactions of our customers, reactions of the competitors. We see opportunities in what they chose. But the one team just asked me, we had a conference call on FaceTime, and they said, well, what if we really want to, we're working hard on our first annex, and our annex is going to be really earth friendly. I said, yeah, you got to watch emissions. Be careful of that. So they're, oh, that's Alexa telling me. Okay, thank you. What the weather's going to be tomorrow. So they're saying, when we do this annex, how do we carry this? First annex is basically on the car lines and the corporate strategy, mission, vision, values, that stuff. And then the second one gets more into competitive. It follows the, the textbook and the DQs and all that. And the final one is like corporate. But I guarantee it's going to change. No matter what you pick as your vision and mission, as soon as you see what customers really want and what the competitors are doing, you're going to say, wait a minute, we have to look at the bottom line here. We don't want to run out of money. We want to get some ROS and EBITDA. And the best thing the CFO can do is do benchmarking. And it's really easy, and mostly only finance people know how to do it, but it's not that hard to do. I'm not that good, and I can do it all the time. It's really fun. It makes it easy. What you do is you say, what is the per unit CapEx? I don't want to see my giant investment. I want to know what's my per unit CapEx. Then I can say, okay, I'm forecasting 75 units in this line, and my CapEx is at X, it's going to be X times 75 is what I'm going to need. So you can actually figure out your budget by figuring out what CapEx are you going to need on a unit basis. You can do the same thing as what is our cost per vehicle? What is our cost per customer achieved? And those benchmarks really help, because then if you're doing forecasting and saying, well, geez, I have no idea what to do. If I have a team, sometimes we have a team which has everybody slept through accounting and everybody hates finance. I'm not allowed to jump in and help, because then I'd have to help everybody, and I have special knowledge that they only give to faculty and the sim. But what I say is, if you really don't know what to do financially, cover your depreciation, at least on CapEx. Just cover your depreciation, and then be moderate on marketing and engineering, and you'll catch up. You'll stay at least in the middle with everyone else, because there's no way to analyze this and then beat it and game it. You can't. No one can do it. It's too many moving parts and too many things to change, from period to period. Yeah, you have to pick up kind of the difference between what is capacity. Capacity is what? It's production plus inventory, right? So you look at what inventory do we have left in this car line, and we can sell that inventory at a certain price. How much do we have to produce this period versus next period? So you look at the depreciation of the plant, but the CapEx then guides you. And if it looks like it's too high, you don't just say, well, let's spend less on plant and equipment. You have to go back to engineering. You have to go back and say, where are we over engineering this? And this is how the CFOs report to everybody. They just say, folks, your CapEx is way too high here. We're going to be really dropping with this forecast. It shows the EBITDA is going way down. And it's the CapEx is driving it. So Image, I know you want to build the fastest race car you ever did in history, but what happened with that is it's over engineer and it's driving the CapEx way up, and it's affecting the whole company's budget. So then that's why you have to make a final decision, even if individual people, and as you get towards the fifth decision, people get their pet projects. And we had one, it was actually a young financial person, but she just loved the race car. She engineered this race car. It was absolute cash cow. It was doing fantastic, but it was taking a lot of the resources, and they weren't able to get the ROS up. So they had to kind of back off a little on the features there, because it was also affecting the field failure rate. It was so over-engineered. And then they had to have more plant capacity, and then the HR, everything was going down, the morale, because when the plant doesn't work well, the morale goes down. So all these things are connected kind of thing, but you'll see in the cheat sheet how you can get morale up and do some of that stuff. But that's for later decisions. At this one, you really don't see any feedback from what the customers did, or what the customers or the competitors did. So in general, what do you think? I mean, do you have any questions? Or, I mean, I'm rambling on and on because I want to make sure that you don't make some of the huge major mistakes coming out, because you don't have to. When you first come out, you don't have to say, okay, we're going to be everything to everyone. It's better just to balance it out. And, it's a portfolio. It is. And you can see in the cheat sheet that family and is the highest growth. That's your cash cow. Image is good, but has, like, instead of 15%, maybe 7% growth. And then the question mark and the potential star are, of course, eco and low price. So the strategy from Porter's standpoint is, we're going to milk the cows that are doing well, sell good on that, and invest in those other lines. And that's just your portfolio strategy. It's a strategy course, and that works really well. but it gets more sophisticated. If you watch some of our videos, Paul and I did some real cheat videos as you get towards 3 and 4. Don't watch them now because it'll just confuse you. But as you get to 3, 4, and 5, there's some really sophisticated things you can do, like shutting down a car line. You can actually say, you know, we haven't done real well in family, and we're going to pay the depreciation on the plant, keep a small amount of inventory so that our workers are happy there, pay them well, but we're not going to put marketing and engineering into it. We're going to sell what we have, little parts of the inventory, and just let it trail off and really focus on these 3 lines. That's the strategy. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but there are teams that have done fantastic on that. Same thing with the last decision. It's possible to shut down 3 of the lines and just go for 1 and just blow out the doors. So, you know, you can do different things towards the end than you can do on decision 1, 2, and 3. And it just gets a lot more fun by 4 and 5 because you got it down. It's kind of like, we're not going to mess with half of this stuff. We're doing well. We're raising up our EBIT. The roast isn't too bad. It's very rare out of, I don't know, 30, 40 pulls on 200, out of 40 or 50, maybe 8 or 10 universes actually break into a positive EBIT or ROAS. You know, getting it up and not having it as bad is really common, but also, to be honest, it's very common to just sink really down low too. If you try too hard to market and you have a ton of sales but no capacity to produce it, that's usually what happens. It hasn't, the investments haven't been made in plant and equipment. So what do we think?
So I actually had a question in regards to investment in facility.
Sure.
So in one of the decision-making videos on YouTube, there was a PowerPoint slide that gave out a formula, and there was a few numbers listed on the chart to calculate the I think the facility investment
Yeah,
for.
those are CapEx. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is, that formula is, let me see if I can find the formula for you here. I mean, I have it memorized. It's really like you subtract depreciation.
I
Oh, I
have.
hear this. I got it. I got it. What you do is what it showed is, I think it showed in the current period, there was like, the CapExes, of course, are different for every model line, but let's say it's image drill high, like $100, and you got 75 is your forecast. That's how many you have to repeat. So you just 75 times 100 would be $7,500 would be your investment. But depreciation comes into that, which you have to add back because it's non-cash. So if it changes, let's just say we're going to keep this the same, then you just cover depreciation. That's all you're really doing. But if you want to grow it, then the formula changes because it's the number that you're forecasting times the previous no change number in terms of the CapEx and the new CapEx. And how do you have a new CapEx when you haven't changed CapEx because of engineering? So what happens if you're engineering and you said, okay, we're forecasting this number models and we're changing this, but your CFO person has to say, or your car line manager say, whoa, 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 the CapEx in this example case went from 100 to 250. So it's like, wow, the CapEx went way up. So you got to subtract those two to get the formula for what you want to invest in production and capacity. So that's kind of the formula, and you'll find that in the cheat sheet and in the student guide manual also. And also the glossary is good. You should look at the glossary because it's got a whole description. When you look at CapEx, it's not just it's capital expense PP&E. It has a whole long kind of description of how it works within the sim too, which is cool.
Okay, so my question regarding that was if you could show us in our Purple Team sim where those numbers were pulled from, because I've watched a YouTube video and I remember seeing a video that you narrated about where you can change the number, and I'm just confused as to where those numbers were pulled from.
Oh, I see what you mean. Sure. So let's see. Let's go to decisions. Let's go to corporate. Over, which is away from here. Go to our budget. This is our summary of all the budgets, and let me get down to the boxes here. So here's your facility investments here. What is it, 69? Okay, that went from 69 to 77, back, 69. I don't want to change anything because this is your team. It's like, oh no, our instructor helped us a lot and everything went crazy. When the team doesn't validate, I somehow have to jump in and help, which is terrible because it just ruins it for the whole rest of the class. But yeah, so this is where you put your facility investments in here for each one. That multiplier that I said with the CapEx, et cetera, this is where you'd enter it. And this is where you get your capacity as a resulting. And it has to be for each line. Oh, wait, the picture's there. I can't see this. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. So this is for each line. And the reason it's different is because obviously you engineered them different and your CapEx is different. So it should show, oh, there it is. Yeah, so see, here it is. This shows your capacity and your CapEx and how they're different. And then that gives you you can then do your facility investment there based on multiplying it out, and then you see what's happened with the capacity for each one next period. And this isn't something you just do by itself, but that's why I said you should always come back here to corporate after you play around with engineering and marketing, especially the CFO, because the two things you want to look at is this for supply and then cash to make sure all those decisions didn't run you out of cash or didn't suddenly blow out your CapEx so bad that it's going to be that you're not going to make enough capacity, but you'll get enough models. But what happens is that what's much easier when you can see lost orders over inventory. You can't see that now because there's been no competitive response, but the first sim, even if you do really well and you match it, there's no team that's ever not had either more sales than that they can produce with inventory, more inventory that they can't sell. So those two gaps kind of have to be lowered, and that's what happens by increasing more money in marketing or dropping down marketing and engineering. If you've over-engineered and over-marketed, and you got a huge number of huge amount of revenues, even profitable revenues, but then you can't supply because you look at your inventory. So you'll see a bigger version of this in your results. It's just not here yet because we haven't run this once, but you'll actually see this in this section under corporate results, a huge spreadsheet of you and all the competitors. And where's the inventory at? What have they sold? What is their lost orders over inventory? And I also share some faculty only exhibits because they'll help you with your final presentation. And it also, but I share it with everyone. So if no one wants to look at it, that's a choice. You get in what get out what you put into it. So if you want to take a look and say, oh man, we could have tweaked this, then that's fine too. But it's a good question because a lot of people don't even know they can change these. And I had 3 sims. One person said we didn't even know we could control production. I'm like, oh my gosh. But you watch the YouTube and at least you knew there was a box that you could type into. And that happens. Some teams don't watch the videos and they just do the engineering slider. They do it and they keep the defaults from what happened last time, and they haven't had a chance to change anything based on what their projection was, and they didn't even look at it. And now if it stops and everybody emails me and says, we can't validate it, saying no, you could jump in now that we've talked and say, well, we can see they didn't look at their cash and they have negative cash. It's not going to validate. So, and I hate fixing that. I just do not want to fix that. It's better for the team because, if the 3 of us have to go in and fix a team, we're going to have to randomly somehow change the marketing and the engineering and stuff, which is not fair. If I do it from what I know, then, and they do better, they're going to say that's cheating. And if I just do it randomly and try to make it crummy and they do worse, well, we would have done better. It's like, so you're kind of sunk either way. So, well, Peyton, what do you think?
Yeah, first question I have, so the financial analyst and the CFO is the same person, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know. So then my role as the CFO is to kind of go through all the value chains and
Yes.
look at where the car line managers put the bars and determine if I believe they're in a good spot financially.
Well, yeah, you don't have to individually analyze all their decisions. What you do is make sure that you check where they're not going to check, which is cash flow and production, and just say, make sure that they may not check the numbers or even understand the ratios and the numbers. They may just have all the sliders done and say, wow, I'm going to get a lot of orders with this. But then you have to kind of look at the cash flows and the EBIT. Because part of the whole decision thing you'll see on the YouTubes is everything you do, look at EBIT. Everything, well, nobody does. They're like, oh, we're going to really get market share with this. It has a marketing mindset. And I really want to go on this image line. I really want to engineer it. And I want to make it like the fanciest leather seats, everything, But you double check that. The second thing, which makes it, you don't look at everything. You just kind of look at, okay, what, after all those decisions are put together, and this is kind of what you're liking, double check the cash flow on it. And if you have to make modifications, then it's kind of like, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't have to go through and change all the engineering marketing. You say, look, I can see right now that it's heavily weighted. The CapEx has gotten much heavier in image, and that's really driving my problems with capacity down here. Or I can see EBIT is being destroyed. And when I look at the car lines, I can see that it's eco. I know we want to be low CO2, but you're investing a huge amount in the eco, and you've lowered the price so low that it's destroying my EBITDA. So either you got to raise your price up a little bit, or, decide to move some of that investment across the portfolio. And that's a mistake a lot of teams make. They say, we're going to be the most green, sustainable, earth-friendly company in the world. And by Annex 2, they're all tearing their hair out. It's like, why did we do that? It's like, no, it's God loves you. And so the earth loves you. Gaia, Mother Earth, it's all great. But if you go out of business, you can't help the earth. So you have to look at EBITDA and make sure that, you're taking care of all the stakeholders, including your employees. And I mean, HR is important. We did usually once every sim, we have like 80 teams and everybody can jump on and do with the whole DSU. And I don't know if we'll do that this round or not, because it's summer and everybody's out. All the ground schools are gone. But a lot of the questions are, why is my HR so low? I've done everything and I've paid these workers so much. It's like, no, it's not about paying. If you look at those 3 indicators, it's also the facility. Are you keeping it up to date? How are your revenues? The revenues are really tied, and especially lost orders. Lost orders really lowers morale because everybody works so hard, and HR is you and I too, are the marketing person, the finance person. We're not happy if we're not doing well either, So revenues and EBIT is very important for the CFO to check in and then tell the whole team, hey, take a look. It really depends a lot on the team, because after one kind of run where the CFO kind of said, you better look closer at EBITDA and ROS on this, and if something goes wrong, a lot of teams go, wait a minute, I think she should be driving this whole team. It's like, what else? All these decisions, all these moving parts, but also, set up their teams and make it work. So, but it's really worth it in the end, because we have had so many things. You don't have to do APA citations. You don't have to do certain word count. There's no word counts. People are so used to this school. They all come back to me and say, Coach T, what is this? Like 800 words or 1200? I was like, it could be 10 words. I don't care. Do 3 slides, make them the best slides you've ever done, and say 5 things. If you're giving executive presentation to a board, are you going to try to make it 1200 words? They'll throw you out of the C-suite. No, you make it pithy, use a lot of graphics, and keep it short. I mean, and so we've gotten the dean to give us absolution on everything because of the sim and how much work it is. And we've taken advantage of it. All of us have said to our students, look, there's no plagiarism here. Quote your team. Steph, quote Peyton. I mean, you can quote each other. You can say, I heard this here. This is not a scholarly, do APA, do all this research in the library and come up with an article kind of thing. I do that all day long in the doctorate, which is, it's like, all right, you got to do it. But this is about real business, real business simulation. So how would you do a business presentation? So as you go forward and you have deliverables for the course, whether it's discussion questions or come up with a personal value statement, use everything from the sim, use a couple of graphics, use some of the discussions you have, and just repeat what happened in the team. And that'll make the class a lot easier. And I guarantee these decisions will get a lot easier as you see the results and you go further. And by the 4th and 5th one, you know, some teams start out with like a 2-hour meeting and end up in 15 minutes on a Thursday. They say, we know what we need to do. We have this strategy. We're going to adjust. It's especially the last decision, because that's like, no, next period doesn't matter. So let's just do the best we can do to end the foot race as high as we can. And there's a video on that I did with Professor Paul, and it shows a lot of tips and secrets. And if you watch that, you'll have a leg up, because not everybody watches it. So anyway, thank you for taking so much time. I don't know what time it is. So later. It's really a lot later there, right? Sorry. It's only 7 o'clock here. Jeez, I'm awake still.
Well,
Sorry,
the
guys.
meeting was very informational, so thank you very much.
Oh, thank
Yes,
you
thank you both
too.
for being.
Well, thank you both for coming, and give the word to the rest of your team. And have any questions, just text me, email me, go on the messaging system, whatever you want to do. I'm happy to answer any questions, send other formulas, whatever it takes.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.